Hello, and welcome back to Always Online. I guess back for the new year. My name is Brendyn Chetty, and I will be driving today's episode. Joining me as always, Brendyn Lotz.
Howdy.
And Louis Monzon.
What's up, guys?
Look, Brendyn, guys, you really need to get... That's my thing. Howdy is my thing. New Year's resolution is to find a new...
Okay.
God, use hard.
A new one.
Anyway, as you may know, it's 2024. Everything is probably going to be okay. We don't know.
We're only 10 days in.
Probably.
And already we've had Jake Paul, or was it Logan Paul, like trying to give people refunds, but it's like being fluffed.
And airplanes breaking.
Yeah.
National disasters in Japan.
Yeah, it's just not getting off to the best of starts.
Yeah, no one has told the Earth that it's actually 2024. But we are back. We took, I guess, a slight break towards the end of last year. I think for everyone, it probably got a bit too much, a bit too hectic. But the time off, I think, has given everyone a chance to reset. Speaking of which, like, how was your guys' breaks?
I mean, it was good. I went down to Cape Town, and it was madness. It was just packed with people.
Yeah, I love Cape Town, except for all the Cape Townians. They just make it terrible.
So, I mean, it was great. It was just, it was so busy with all the tourists. And so many people that work and live in Cape Town obviously said to us they've never seen it this busy, which I think makes sense given all the beach woes in Durban. And KZN in general. I think a lot of people decided to do their holiday in Cape Town this year instead of going down to potentially toxic beaches.
Yeah, I mean, the rand-dollar exchange rate, it's always going to be favorable if you're coming from overseas.
Yeah. And I mean, apparently it's quite cold in the northern hemisphere at the moment, so we're better to come than very cheap and very sunny South Africa, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah and Roger Federer.
I had like the most quiet end of the year holidays ever. Like it was just the family and video games. Like I think I went to bed at like 9 o'clock on New Year's. Just I knew it was the 2024 because I started hearing all the fireworks, and that's about it. Just calm, relaxed.
Family and video games, that sounds great.
Family and video games, yeah.
All right, so I guess the kind of topic for today's podcast is around the new year. We're not going to go around the table and talk about New Year's resolutions that we have outlined.
I don't make resolutions.
Yeah, I think I stopped when I turned 30.
Yeah.
Because one, they were really unattainable,
Yeah.
I found out. And two, I've already kind of found my groove. It's all now just about refining it and kind of perfecting it, as it were.
Yeah, I agree. I think like resolutions are great if you are intending to stick to them, but I just also feel like it's placing a sort of... Some people see it as, that's the problem, is the pressure that it puts on you because like... Obviously, you think now everybody's paying attention to you, hence they're not. Nobody cares if you are not going to the gym anymore except you.
So there's this thing that they tell like writers, new writers, like if you have an idea for a book, like a really good one, don't tell anyone.
No.
Right? Because then you'll get it out there, and then you won't write it.
Yeah.
So right, it's the same thing with like New Year's resolutions. Like, just don't tell anyone. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll do it. If you start telling everybody, I'm gonna be sexy this year, chances are you're not.
Yeah.
The summer body's built in winter, as they say.
Exactly. So why waste time in summer here in South Africa?
Indeed. So I guess with that kind of spirit in mind, we're going to be looking at how people can improve their skill set, courses they can take up, platforms they can leverage and make use of throughout the year. And instead of necessarily having a specific goal in mind, trying to essentially add more tools to their tool bag or more elements to their arsenal when it comes to actually being better at their job. So I think a good starting point would probably be AI. I know I can probably speak for all of us when I say we're a little bit sick and tired of speaking about AI, but I think for the vast majority of people, AI is still very much an unknown. And it was the kind of the buzzword or the topic of conversation for much of 2023, and for good reason. It's kind of permeated or found its way into every aspect or every industry that we know these days. Yeah. Every single company is chasing ChatGPT to try and have a rival platform that people want to make use of. They are trying to embed AI into pretty much every piece of software, every piece of technology that we use these days.
Yeah. For example, Samsung, they just put out a press release. They're putting AI in fridges, in washing machines?
Why?
Do you want the AI in your, I don't know, your water cooler? Your TV's getting AI. Everything's getting AI. You know, that's just kind of the sentiment around it. It has to be everywhere.
See, but the thing is, I don't know what that means because Samsung have had smart things forever, for more than a decade now. Surely AI is just an extension of smart things.
I think you're right, but there's also like an investor, you know, something to it. Like you have to have AI, otherwise your investors are like, "Where's your AI?"
I guess we'll probably find out next week when Samsung hosts their Galaxy Unpacked. They're talking about Galaxy AI, and I think we're gonna have to pour one out for Bixby. I don't know what's gonna happen to Bixby.
Rest in peace. Nobody's gonna miss you.
Yeah, so I think also another important element to talk about here around AI specifically is the fact that job security is now becoming an issue when it comes to AI. We've seen a number of big companies cut workforces and now try to augment the losses they've made as far as their employees are concerned and try to automate processes via AI.
So I think a lot of this also stems back to the pandemic when a lot of these big tech companies grew rapidly. Because, as we've said before on Hypertext Presents podcast, is that I think all of these companies thought that we were just going to all stay inside forever and forever. Amen. Never go outside. Never interact with the real world. We'll just always be online. And I think now, in the last 2-3 years, we started seeing that was a very silly way to think of things. And it's coming back and hurting all these companies. And they have workforces that are too big to sustain. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are having their jobs lost. I think you wrote about Duolingo this week, leveraging more, or putting more leverage on AI than their human workforce, which is very concerning. Can we really trust the quality of the AI that it's producing? I mean, there's so many stories from last year where we saw like ChatGPT just get things horribly wrong, or Bard, or whichever chatbot it is. I mean, it's very concerning to me, right? That all of these companies are just diving into this technology, not knowing what the pros and cons of it are. It's just like Louis says, it's like the investors saying you must have AI in the name. And I don't know, I feel like that bubble is going to pop at some point, because aside from like a chatbot that can interact with customers in a really great way, what is the point of AI for most businesses? There's the efficiency argument you can make, sure, but like beyond that, what are we looking at? So are we looking at AI being used for email writing? Like, is that really necessary?
Because everything that can be automated is going to be automated. By AI. And there's a thing now in tech, just recently, over the past year, it's been happening, and you kind of see it more and more. People are talking about it, that tech used to be, very young people focused. Right? You get young people in, they have new ideas and stuff. So the beginning rung of the tech industry is now being replaced by AI, because those jobs are the jobs that they can be like repetitive, or they're, kind of grindy. It's like data, looking at and analyzing data and stuff like that. All that stuff can be done by AI. Right? And now what we're seeing is those young people are being barred from the industry because of AI. And the top rung is still the same, because the higher you go up, the more specialized your profession is, right? And there's certain things AI can't do. So, what does that leave all these young tech industry people?
Well, I think AI now has become very much a double-edged sword. As far as kind of building up your skill set is concerned. So yes, you probably have to have an understanding of generative AI platforms and how it all works, and potentially look at how you can use it to augment your current work, because as you mentioned, workforces are being cut down, but the requirements of employees are still staying the same, and in many cases actually increasing. So a lot more is being asked of employees despite workforces shrinking. So I believe that AI has a part to play, but kind of speaking anecdotally, I was talking to a former journalist who implemented AI within his job and was really successful with that. However, when he showed the evidence of how AI can actually work with his employers, they also saw, oh, that's really good. And a few weeks later, he was let go of his job, as well as some other members in his team. And their jobs were, for all intents and purposes, was replaced by AI. So Yes, AI is something that you probably have to add to your skill set. There are a number of courses, we'll talk about different platforms shortly, that offer introductory courses to AI, trying to understand perhaps what the advantages or potential applications of generative AI platforms are going to be. But at the same time, you also have to be quite wary about just how much you want to lean on the technology. I guess looking at perhaps in the media and journalism space, we are seeing tons of websites being spun up. Content is purely generated by AI.
And it's horrible.
And they are stealing AdSense from legit publications that have employees that need to get paid.
So I think it's such a good point you raise is that it is a double-edged sword, right? Because you either ignore AI, which is very dangerous.
And impossible, let's be honest.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. Or you just let it take your job, right? Because that is ultimately what happens. And I think that we're kind of standing on this precipice now where AI is either going to fade into obscurity or it's going to become this massive thing, right? Like reinventing transport, like the motor car did for horse transport, right? Like you could either just stick by your guns and use the horse, or you could learn about this new thing and learn how to leverage it, right? Like mechanics, I think, were some of the smartest people in the world when the motor car became popular because they were like, well, people are always going to need to fix these things. So maybe prompt engineer, which is still something I cringe at saying, but I mean, maybe that is something to look at if you are looking at leveraging AI or developing how you develop this, how you implement AI into business sense in a way that would ensure that you are not cut out of the equation completely. But as you mentioned, that requires actually understanding the technology and learning about it. And in some instances, maybe even developing it. The reason I'm so negative about AI, though, is that I feel that the big problem with it is that eventually you're going to have AI learning from AI. Because so many industries are now being cannibalized by artificial intelligence and large language models and generative intelligence, whatever it may be, that you're now starting to see that AI needs to use, it needs to constantly learn, and eventually you're going to have a case where AI is now reading articles that are written by AI, and you're just going to get garbage, right?
No, I mean, you already have hallucinations as a big issue right now.
So now you have AI reporting on an article that's written by AI but isn't verified by any human. And I mean, these bots are so good at making up stuff that if you don't know that what it's saying is wrong, like you could have egg on your face.
Well, I think that's a multifaceted issue with just the way the internet is now. And I'm not going to get too deep into it, but we saw when there was this World of Warcraft article that popped up. And it was fake, completely fake. And it was fake on purpose because the Reddit, the World of Warcraft Reddit, they started saying, oh, this cool new feature is so cool. You know? Again, it was a fake feature.
It was a glorb, I think.
Glorb. Oh, I can't believe we're getting glorb. And then the AI started, this publication, they were caught out for using AI because the AI wrote a whole article about the Glorbo, which is real, right?
Yeah, it was.
Those are the kind of articles that Brendyn is saying that could be recannibalized into other articles.
Yeah.
How many more AI articles of Glorbo will we see?
So I read a really interesting piece that was published on the IEEE website, and it was some research that they did about how generative AI and things like Midjourney are just a copyright minefield. Because you could say something like, popular 90s cartoon, and it will show you The Simpsons without any prompt relating to The Simpsons, which I think is really concerning because copyright just goes out the window completely, and we have to rethink copyright laws entirely. And then it becomes a question of, well, I mean, if you're making the provision for AI, surely the same provision should go towards humans, right? And content creators who want to use copyrighted music, which then just brings in a whole lot of questions about how much we value art as a society, because that's also a concern. I think SAG-AFTRA and a generative AI company just announced something at CES where they're going to use voice actors' voices to kind of train an AI, and many people are upset about this. And it just feels like every day there's a new controversy surrounding AI that's popping up in the news. And that's why I'm so negative about it, because I just feel there are too many problems for it to be considered a valuable tool. And a lot of AI training is done using copyrighted material. As I wrote in a piece this week, like maybe if you are using stolen material, what you're doing isn't exactly above board.
Well, unfortunately, I think unlike NFTs and the metaverse, AI in its current guise, I hate using the term AI because these are just large language models at the end of the day. But AI is here to stay. It behooves you to kind of get to grips with it, understand how it works, understand how it could potentially be applied in your business, and things like, as you mentioned, being a prompt engineer, also things like compliance. Compliance is going to be a huge thing, I think, moving forward as far as the legal field is concerned. So I wouldn't be surprised, much like Popio was an issue for the legal fraternity a few years back. I think probably AI and compliance around that, copyright law, that kind of stuff.
Education.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our AI rant kind of done.
Put a pin in that.
So I think we can perhaps move on to kind of platforms that we think are worthwhile kind of looking at, leveraging, signing up for courses on. And the first big one for me, I think probably would be Udemy.
Yeah.
It's pretty well known as far as kind of upskilling is concerned. A lot of the content is kind of vetted by internationally recognized companies, so they kind of accept qualifications or certifications via courses on that platform. But at the same time, it's creator led as far as the kind of material that's available and what you're able to learn on there, as well as the fact that all the courses are kind of vetted by the community itself. So if someone has designed a course and is offering it, it usually has some kind of review to it or some kind of rating. So you have an idea of how good a course facilitator is as far as being able to instruct, impart knowledge, and those kind of things are concerned. And I think that is probably a very effective tool to use. Also, affordability. Udemy is quite affordable. There are free options as well if you search hard enough. And one thing I like particularly about it is the fact that it has different segments or different industries on its portal. So something that I think is perhaps overlooked is personal development. So I think in 2023, I saw, I guess, firsthand kind of the burnout and stress and kind of how that impacts your work. Being able to deal with that is not something that everyone can do. So starting up for a course on kind of how to handle that or manage that better, I think is perhaps really good in the long run. And Udemy has a bunch of courses on that front. So I think that's something that people should definitely look at, how they manage their mental health. Again, I don't like to use the term because it kind of it's mutated a bit in my view of recent years, but kind of how they deal with the stresses and pressure of work in a really constructive way, outside of just kind of taking long, week-long breaks and things like that. But actually, because as we know, even post-pandemic, a lot more stresses are out there in the world that people have to kind of deal with, and having some guidance or assistance as far as how to deal with that is obviously going to be very beneficial.
Sorry, I just want to jump in. Like something else I like about these online courses is that you can kind of do them at your own pace. So if you have a full-time job, like in the past, I remember many eons ago, if you wanted to upskill yourself, you'd have to sign up at a college or university and do like night courses and then work your work day around that. But what's cool about this is if you have a full-time job, you can like do this in the nights or like an hour while you're on your commute to work or whatever it may be. So like I really like how flexible they are, and I think that also helps make them more accessible. Something else about Udemy is that they have very often immense sales. I mean, I just picked up a course now for like $200. That's usually 1,600 rand. So it's worth just going on there and looking for something that interests you, right? And who knows, maybe you could build a career out of it. You know, maybe in a year's time, Robin will be a personal development coach, you know?
Yeah, we'll see. I think you raise a good point, though, that a lot of these courses, the onus is on you. So if you want to do well in the course, if you want to kind of progress and use it as a launch pad for something else, that's all on you. And I think that's really important about this kind of episode is that it's important to try and better yourself. No one is perfect, despite what Elon Musk says. And adding to your skill set is important. Unfortunately, not all of us can go back to university or can have the time to do a full-time tertiary institution course. So having these kind of smaller, shorter, at your own pace offerings available to you is really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's, and this is not a slight against universities. Like, if you can go to university and get a specialized education in something in a higher institution that's recognized, I mean, go for it, right? But I mean, like, for people like us or myself, where I'm now like getting closer to 40, and I need to learn some new stuff. I need to keep abreast with what's happening in the world, right? Like, it's no longer just fine to be like, oh, I'm going to stay in the same company for 50 years and get a golden watch when I retire. I don't think that happens anymore. And the rate at which technology evolves, like, if you don't keep up, you're going to get left behind. So, I mean, especially just going back to the AI thing, right? Like, it's something that is important. Like, cybersecurity is always going to be important. Like, being able to operate in a digital world, whatever that may be, creating platforms or maintaining them or being able to use them, that's all really important stuff. So don't discount the fact that, like, oh, I don't really need to learn all this stuff. Trust me, it's a good idea, like you say, Robin, to just better yourself and improve your skill sets, no matter how small or insignificant other people may think it is.
Yeah, I mean, the technology industry, by its very nature, is always in flux. Things are always changing. It's the reason why many companies kind of stipulate that their employees have to kind of go for training to make sure they're up to date, especially if you look at something like cybersecurity field.
Yeah.
That kind of ecosystem is changing all the time, changing day to day, hour to hour even. So, to be able to kind of quickly pick up skills or ideas is really important.
Absolutely.
So I guess another, outside of, say, AI, another kind of element that's always good, I think, to add to your arsenal is coding and programming.
To code.
Yeah, I must admit that there has been a big push, especially in countries like South Africa, for learners to learn how to code. Personally, I think we have far bigger issues as far as primary and secondary school education is concerned, actually just getting kids education outside of just coding,
Being able to read a book.
Yeah. But I think it's a good skill set to add, because when I went to university, coding wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
But now, because I not live online, but I'm essentially online all the time, having that would be great to have, because I don't have to necessarily lean on someone else for that kind of skill. I can have it myself.
I mean, just to understand, like, why a website is down or why a website is behaving the way it's behaving, right? Like, knowing what a 404 error is, like, it seems, just the basics of, like, how the web operates. Like, I think that's incredibly valuable, knowing what a database is, how to access a database.
I mean, nowadays, you'll struggle to find a job that doesn't have some sort of internet element attached to it. You know what I mean? So it does behoove you to know some of the stuff of coding, but otherwise, it's a difficult field. Programming and coding, famously very difficult, very hard to get into. That's why there's not that many coders or programmers.
If you love maths, coding is probably going to work out well for you, because it's
as well.
It's all about, like, it's in my mind, it's always been about you create something, and then 90% of the rest of your time is finding the bugs and finding the problems and fixing those problems. So if you like solving problems, coding is really a fantastic career path for you.
So there are plenty of, like we mentioned, Udemy. There's plenty of other ways to like get classes on coding. In South Africa, there's this guy named Brendyn Wilson. I spoke to him last year. We did a few interviews. He actually started a website called STEM Code Africa. It's for very early. We mentioned school kids and stuff like that. So it's the whole point of it is just to start kids learning before even starting to code. Is just kind of the idea of how code works.
Yeah, like the logic behind it.
Trees and stuff like that. And he uses uses a platform called Scratch. And that kind of teaches you. It kind of has like exercises, and then you go through the exercise on your own time, whenever you want. It's like a free platform, and it's not just for kids. If you want to get the very very basics of coding down, you can just check out the website. and it's like it does teach you the basics, and then you kind of move on from there at your own pace, and then you can check out Python, and you can check out all the other starter languages. Then you move up to C# or C++, all that stuff. But kind of where I'm trying to go with this is that a lot of coding information is freely available online. The coders and programmers talk to each other, and they have places where they
Stack Overflow, bro.
and GitHub and all that stuff. And it's easy to find this information, but you have to look for it. You know what I mean? And it's freely available. A lot of the stuff we mentioned, trying to improve yourself and trying to skill up yourself. A lot of this stuff is available for free online, but you have to look for it. You have to be interested in it. You have to have like that impetus to look for it. There was a report from a company called Programmiz. I hope I'm saying that right. So they had over 10,000 respondents in the U.S., programmers and coders in universities.
Yeah.
And then they kind of wanted to figure out, we were talking about AI, they kind of wanted to figure out how these programmers are learning using AI, right? If it's helping them. 30% of the respondents said that ChatGPT is a better teacher than college lecturers using to learn how to code. Because you can ask ChatGPT questions, like you can even like copy and paste, why isn't this code working?
Yeah, and it'll say, oh, you left out this.
Yeah, exactly. In the same language and in the context that you need it. So it's a good teacher. ChatGPT is for free. You know what I mean? And yes, it has problems. We mentioned hallucinations and stuff like that.
Yeah. But there are ways you can get around, like you say, right? You paste the code in there, you say, what is wrong?
Yeah.
And then it'll say, oh, well, there's this problem here.
Yeah.
Like if you ask it to code a whole program for you, chances are there's going to be mistakes.
Exactly.
But if you're working on something, like, I mean, I think we mentioned it, is that using ChatGPT to augment whatever you're doing is something that most people are doing nowadays. I mean, I use it a lot of the time for that. But yeah, I mean, I think you're so right in that it's a great way to just, in the context that you need it, get feedback, rather than a lecturer having to go over it and another set of slow human eyes and brains going over it slowly.
I imagine like a lot of programmers work at night, in basements. I kid the programmers, but you can't really ask your lecturer at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're busy with code. On Monster Energy, what's wrong with my code? Why isn't it working? It doesn't execute. But you can go chat with ChatGPT and get that worked out.
So I know about AI now. I know how to code now. I know how to program.
Yeah.
What other digital skills should I be learning to pick up in 2024?
So I think that in terms of entertainment, even though that we have like ChatGPT and stuff, we still need humans with good ideas to entertain us, right? So I think things like animation, video editing, like writing, script writing, like just some of the arts. I think if you have a proclivity for that or you have a passing interest in it, try and invest in that, because I think, like, especially us, we take writing for granted because it just comes so easily to us. But it's not something that people all know how to do. Like, if you sat down and asked somebody to write a news story, chances are most people would struggle. But even beyond that, like editing video or editing sound or whatever it may be, like stuff that helps produce the arts is always going to be in demand, right? Especially like a video editor. I mean, you can ask AI to make you a whole movie and it'll produce 5 hours of content for you, but nobody's going to watch a 5-hour movie, so you got to edit that down. So, I mean, like there's ways that you can apply the arts to your life and make money off of it. Like I see a lot of local streamers kind of augment their skills and do work within that streaming field. So they'll stream one day and then for the rest of the week they'll do other stuff like make banners for people, which seems really silly at first, but then you realize like all big streamers have banners and stream elements that they're using. Where do those come from? And if you like creating stuff like that and customizing stuff for people, that's a great way to make a couple of cents on the side, right? So I think don't ignore the arts. I think there's still value in them, and people can use AI, but that's increasingly becoming controversial. And people can sell when you've used AI for art. I think Wizards of the Coast found that out really quickly this last weekend. They put out an ad, and immediately people were like, "You're using AI? Why?"
Into the images and
like the window is 5 different paint sizes, right? So there are ways for people to tell, and I think especially when it's a big corporation, nobody's going to want to use you if you're using AI or use your product or service, whatever it is. So don't ignore those things just because Midjourney and Stable Diffusion exist. Like, invest in those skills in yourself, especially if it's in the arts, because not everybody can design a website, right? Not everybody can make pretty pictures. I know I can't draw, not to save my life. If you were to say, well, we've kidnapped your whole family, you have to draw us a cartoon, I'd be like, well, it was nice knowing my family.
Especially if it's, just to kind of add to that, especially if it's something that you like and you have fun with and you're passionate about, you know?
Yeah.
If you like writing, write. You know, you get better at
the more you do it.
Exactly. Or editing video.
I don't know. I went to a couple of websites. They haven't gotten better.
What did Gary Play say? The more I play, the luckier I get, right? So the more you do something, the better you're going to get it.
That man's surname was Player, though.
Yeah, okay. He was a golfer. It was kind of like written in the stars.
It was written in the stars. Yeah. For everyone else who's not written in the stars, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I think another kind of, if we're kind of sticking with the creative elements here, I think it's good to pick up a hobby.
Yeah.
Especially a hobby that teaches you a skill set.
Yeah.
That hobby could be cooking.
Yeah.
Because people need to eat.
Yeah.
You know how impressive it is to cook a meal for someone, a real good meal for someone, how much they appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now I'm shifting away from that because that's nothing to do with technology. But something like photography, I think is a really helpful skill to have. People are on their phones all the time. You're scrolling through Instagram, you're scrolling through X, you're scrolling through whatever. Images draw your attention. Being able to take a great picture, be able to edit it in Photoshop, for example, is a skill that not everyone has.
Yeah.
Yes, your phone can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, but being able to frame something, be able to handle composition and things like that, those are all little nuances that improve the quality of your photography and also your videography 10 times.
Yeah.
So I think photography is definitely something you can look at. A lot of local photography stores offer free courses, kind of like a basics or introduction to photography. Outdoor photo is one that that's a particular retailer I enjoy frequenting. Yeah. They're really knowledgeable and they're really helpful. So I think looking at kind of your local retailers, seeing what courses they're offering for free, and then kind of from there kind of taking it a step further. You don't have to go to a AAA. You don't have to go to a AAA. You don't have to go to like a Vega or somewhere to learn these kind of design skills. You can pick up bits and pieces here and there and kind of patch it together. I think the next thing we can perhaps shift our focus to is perhaps on the more expensive side. We've kind of talking about the kind of affordable options, the things that you kind of can patch together and kind of create what fits your needs best.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at, I guess, more, I want to say heavyweight certifications, I found Get Smarter to be really useful. They're a local, I guess, tertiary education provider. I remember when they first came out, they initially collaborated with the University of Cape Town quite a bit, and all of their certifications were, I guess, vetted by that university. And to kind of have a qualification that's vetted by UCT is quite a nice thing to have. Since those days, they've now added the likes of Harvard, if you want to be wicked smart. They've also added MIT, Stanford. So a lot of kind of Ivy League universities, to have a qualification from there is a cool thing to have. All the courses are kind of facilitated online. You kind of check in weekly, you give them assignments, go through the course material, and at the end of the course, you kind of write your tests or whatever kind of assignments you have to fulfill. And at the end of the day, then you have a certificate from Harvard or MIT or Stanford or UCT or one of these kind of big universities. So that's a really cool thing to have. And I think what I find really useful about it is that they're always refining their curriculum.
Yeah.
So I've seen now more recently they have a lot of things around AI, specifically around AI in different fields. So AI in terms of compliance in the healthcare industry. Obviously they have their kind of normal courses around the basics for an MBA or data analysis, data science, those kind of things that...
That's very cool.
I guess qualifications that a lot of people are now turning towards.
Yeah.
But they very much have their kind of finger on the pulse as far as what is the new hotness that people need.
That's always good, because I find like sometimes universities are just dragging behind. I think it's also worth mentioning UNISA, even though UNISA is plagued by problems, disclaimer. Whether you will finish your course or not is very much up to the powers that be at UNISA. But their short learning programs are currently open from 10th of January to 28th of February. So if you're looking you need to do a short course, I mean, that is an option at your own risk, right? Because, UNISA is plagued by problems. So it's not a recommendation. It's just that, hey, this also exists sort of thing from
This
me.
isn't our show notes, but Louis, you are studying right now, part-time.
I finished studying.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But WITS, they're kind of, I guess, postgraduate courses. They can also break them down. So I know that you did a postgraduate degree in journalism,
Yes.
but you can break it down into different kind of modules. So you can do like just an online journalism course, for example. So I think there are options like that, right?
Yes. So as far as I know, I did the part-time kind of degree, the honors degree. You can do it full-time, and it's different depending. It's very personalized, right? So which is a good thing. So they kind of took a look at what my undergraduate degree, and they were like, well, you can go into the course, but you just need to do these few things. Like they're not gonna say no, you can't do it. So I just did an extra course in like the basics of journalism in quotes, and then from there I kind of just got into the honors program, no problem, easy peasy. And then what you can do is you can choose the modules, right? What you want to do. So if you want to take broadcast journalism, you can take that. If you want to take feature writing, you can take that. It depends on like if these other modules are popular or not. If there's only three students that took the module, they're not gonna go with it, right? They're gonna go with the ones that have more students. But yeah, I think a lot of universities are doing this. Also, it's very hybrid learning nowadays. You do some of it in class, some of it at home. But I think it's I think maybe the universities are trying to keep up with the internet, basically. You know, the internet, like we talked about all these companies that are offering all these courses online. The universities have to keep up with this kind of thing. They have to offer the same kind of flexibility, the same kind of, hybrid working environments, right? So I think going forward we'll see more of that. The only problem with universities, and we mentioned the lagging behind. I think that's true, but that's on the part of the lecturers more than the universities themselves. For example, I had a lecturer that in their mind, journalism is only print journalism. Obviously, because they were print journalists their whole lives. So their idea of a newsroom is the traditional idea of a newsroom,
like the bull ring sort of thing.
An office space, and you have to go and tell the editor what you're writing. You have to what's the word I'm looking for?
Pitch stories.
Pitch stories, right? You have to pitch. I'm going to write this and this. And nowadays, a lot of journalism isn't like that.
No.
Right? A lot of it is online. A lot of it is digital. A lot of it is quick, fast paced. And that's just the way that the industry has changed over the years. And I still think universities, maybe UCT is different. I only know the WITS experience. Maybe that will also change when new journalists come in to teach. But yeah, that's an issue with that.
Yeah, I think if I had it my way, if I was the chancellor of a university, I would make journalism mandatory for all my humanities students because it's different to, say, studying English.
Yeah.
Journalism is teaching you these soft skills that are transferable in other industries. There are countless number of journalists that I've seen move from media over to kind of the PR world, the communications fields and stuff like that. And
it's sort of the local South African pipeline, isn't it? You do journalism, you go to PR afterwards.
You go to the dark side, right?
Yeah, hopefully I'll avoid that. But we'll see. But I think, like you were mentioning, writing. It's such a difficult skill, actually.
Yeah.
Writing well is actually extremely difficult.
And being concise as well, which is what a lot of PR is. It's about getting that message across quickly and in the most effective way possible. So, yeah, it's not a skill that everybody has. So,
well, I mean, it's not only PR. I mean, being able to write well, being able to, if you're in the ICT field, pitching for tenders, being able to write together a good brief that you're going to be pitching. not everyone can do that. A lot of people struggle with that. Yes, you might be great in the room, but they have to read your proposal before you actually get into the room. So yeah, writing is, I think, a skill that everyone should be looking to pick up, because again, writing well is not something that everyone is able to do.
Journalism also teaches you media literacy.
Yeah.
Which is very important, especially nowadays. Everything is online and everything, being able to pick up what is true, what isn't true, what companies are really trying to say, what politicians are really trying to say. All those things are important skills to kind of understand what's going on in the world. And if you don't have those, people can pull fast ones on you all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, whenever I guess family members say, "Did you see this
on Facebook?"
That's the first thing I say. Where did you see it? And they say, "I saw it on Facebook." Okay, I say next topic of conversation. I don't want to move along. So yeah, I think having that kind of well-honed BS radar is something that journalists have, and we live in the era of misinformation.
Yeah.
So being able to discern fact from fiction is really going to be important moving forward. I guess that kind of covers most of the courses, but Brendyn, you picked a few kind of applications that can be useful as well.
So, I mean, I think we all want to live forever. We all want to stay on this earth for as long as possible. I don't want to hear anything to the contrary. No, I'm kidding. But if you're looking at taking better care of yourself, I think the easiest way to start doing that is by tracking how many calories you have.
Oh, I thought you were going to say blood boy. Get a blood boy.
No.
It's only for the super rich.
But tracking your calories is a really good way to just, if you want to cut some weight out of your life, it's a really good way to do that by entering a calorie deficit so that your body is eating excess stores of energy or fat in this instance. But I know everybody's probably heard of this app, but MyFitnessPal is a really, really great addition to your phone. It's a great way of just tracking what you eat during a day and making sure that you are getting the right amount of calories for your body, right? Because I think it's something that I know I often forget about is eating. If you catch me in the middle of the day and ask me, have I had anything to eat? The answer is most probably no, or a handful of chips. And I think that apps like this are just a good way to help you take care of your body a little bit better, to be aware of what you're eating and also just making sure that you're getting enough nutrients in. I think it's very easy to open Uber Eats. I know over this festive season it was very easy to just be like, I don't feel like cooking. Uber Eats it, right? And before you know it, you've had like 3,000 calories in 15 minutes. So I think just having something like this is really, really good. If you want to take it a bit more seriously, you can get a premium version of MyFitnessPal. It costs $79 though, which is very expensive.
It's too many of dollars.
Yeah. But there is a free version. Obviously, it's available for Android and iOS. And then there are also multiple ways to just track your steps or apps. MyFitnessPal apps that will attach to your wearable device, and then that can just help you match your steps, and then you can see how much energy you're expending, how much energy you're taking in, and you can sort of gamify your health. Yeah. So yeah, MyFitnessPal, really cool little app.
I just want to add one thing to MyFitnessPal, kind of like my experience with it, because I have used it in the past. Yeah. And everything you said about it is true. Yeah. It is a good app, and it is really good for calorie tracking, all that stuff. It also has a barcode scanner. I don't know if that's locked now.
So yeah, that's now locked behind the premium version.
It used to not be.
Yeah, it used to be free.
Just scan the barcode and then the app will have the product and will give you the calories that's in the product that you just had. But for me, for example, eventually, because I'm easily distracted, especially when I'm working and doing things, you have to manually input. I ate this at this time, and then I ate this at this time, and then I ate this at this time. And sometimes I would forget to input that. I'm a very non-disciplined person, which is probably not a good thing. I should probably get more discipline in my life. But if you're not a disciplined person, it can be a little bit difficult to kind of
juggle everything,
track the stuff.
So what I usually do is I do it at the end of the day. Okay. So I just keep a notes of everything that I've done because it's easier for me to just write down on my desk, and then I'll just put it in at the end of the day. And then if I'm over, I'm over. If I'm below, I'm below.
Right.
Got to keep track of those macros, man.
No thanks. That's also locked behind the premium version. Another one that I've seen a lot of people talking about recently is an iOS app, and unfortunately it's only available for iOS. It's called Fantasy Hike, and a lot of people describe it as like it gamifies your daily steps into the journey from the Shire to Mordor.
I've heard of this, yeah.
Right? But they've had to change it a little bit because, copyright exists.
Right.
So it's now a journey to Mount Fire.
Not Mount Doom.
No, Mount Fire. And throughout the app, as you use it, you'll get little quests, like you need to travel this far.
Is this like a Pokemon Go vibe?
Yeah, sort of, but it's more just you yourself. You are just completing your steps as if you are journeying through a fantasy world. You'll have a few quests to do along the way, but I think it's a really fun way of turning reaching your daily steps into a bit of a game.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me of that. You remember there was like a zombie running app?
Yeah, I do remember that. I think it was when like Pokemon Go was just coming out at that point, wasn't it? I feel like it was around that time. Yeah, I do remember that though.
I'm sure it would like leverage off the kind of Walking Dead craze, I'm sure.
Yeah, there was
there
also
was a zombie madness.
there was also a spy sort of game where it was developed by the people who did Pokemon Go Niantic. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me now. But you essentially were a spy running around trying to complete secret missions and stuff, like take photos of things, and it was a really clever idea.
And seduce women and stuff like that.
No, none of that. But yeah, so if you're looking for like something to just turn your reaching your daily step count into something that's more exciting, Fantasy Hike for iOS, it's free. So yeah. The last thing I want to, this is unrelated to everything we've spoken about, but let's make 2024 the year we stop pre-ordering video games. To make society better. So the reason I bring this up is at the end of last year, there was a game that launched called The Day Before, and it was live for all of a week before it was shut down because the developer just couldn't run it anymore. The developer was fantastic. That was that's their name. The name. They are not fantastic.
They weren't actually fantastic.
It was widely regarded as a scam, called a scam by lots of people, an asset flip. It was billed as an online MMO extraction shooter type thing, but it wasn't that. It was just an extraction shooter. No MMO
Barely
aspects to it.
How many genres can we squeeze into?
Yeah, exactly.
It was The Last of Us, and it was MMO, and it was World of Warcraft, and it was everything.
It was one of the most wish-listed games on Steam last year. And that doesn't necessarily mean pre-orders, but there were a lot of people who bought the game and were understandably burnt by it. But also, I just feel that publishers are taking a lot of liberties. If we look back at, like, last year was a good year for video games, but if we look at stuff like Redfall, which just failed to launch miserably, I remember there were people who mocked an IGN journalist for not being able to play it properly. And then when the game came out, people proceeded to apologize to journalists, being like, oh, it's just that bad. So I think let's make 2023 the year we stop pre-ordering video games. First of all, it makes
2024 the year.
Sorry, 2024. But it makes no sense in this day and age because most games are purchased digitally. So what are you pre-ordering for? Are you scared that they're going to run out of randomly generated codes, which has never happened yet?
That's such a good point.
I get to play it 3 days before.
If you're buying a collector's...
That's nowadays, yeah.
If you're buying a collector's edition, sure, that makes sense. But also, you're playing the game 3 days beforehand for what? The bugs that they have to fix.
And the unfinished end half of the game.
Yeah. You play until... I think it was Call of Duty where people got early access and then within that night they'd finished the campaign.
Right.
And I know, let's not rag on the developers of Call of Duty, I'm sure they work very hard, but what are you pre-ordering for nowadays? To get burned by somebody and not be able to get a refund on your money?
In fact, it's kind of proven that the longer you wait for a game, the better the experience will be.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 has won how many...
Game of the Year awards?
It was unfinished when it came out.
Yeah.
Act 3 was unfinished. A lot of the patches, Larian have been working like animals to get that game. But Act 3 was not finished when the game came out.
Yeah.
So nowadays, the game is probably as complete as it is, and it's great and whatever, but just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
It's going to perform better. It's probably going to be at a cheaper price. You can probably pick up a Game of the Year edition with all of the DLC that gets released.
Wait for like a nice sale. Steam has them all.
Play your backlog or replay games that you haven't played in a while. Just don't pre-order games. No more. Let's stop
wait
this.
3 years like we did with Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
now
and it'll be better.
Now it's perfect.
Yeah, now it's a perfect game. 10 out of 10. But it took them how long to get there?
All right.
Yeah.
So that was Brendyn's first rant of 2024 out of the way.
Long may they reign.
Yes. And I think that's a good way to end this episode of Always Online. We hope that some of the stuff we spoke about today was helpful. You look into it, see perhaps how you can improve your skill set. Let us know throughout the course of the year what is working for you, what isn't. Perhaps things that have really helped you. And yeah, I think for myself, Romney Cherry, that's going to be it. So thank you, everyone. From Brendyn Lotz.
Cheerio.
And Louis Monzan.
Have a good 2024.
Cool. Take care, everyone. Cheers.